Hi everybody, Matt here from Matt Likes Comics, and today I want to do a video on one of the creators that I find really awesome from the 1980s and 90s. Um, his name is Keith Giffen. Now, Keith Giffen was born in Queens, New York on the 30th of November 1952, and he recently passed away on October 9th, 2023 in Tampa, Florida. Now, Mr. Giffen was known as a writer and a plotter and an artist, especially for in the beginning. He was an artist mostly at the beginning. He has been credited with the creation of Rocket Raccoon with Roger Slifer back in Marvel Preview 7 in everybody knows who Rocket Raccoon is if you've seen the MCU and certainly the Avengers or the Guardians of the Galaxy. He's turned out to become one of the more popular characters in MCU history because he seems to always be near the top of polls of characters from the movies people like, up there with Iron Man, Thor, and Captain America. He also was the creator of Lobo, who is going to probably be in the DCEU soon, played by Jason Momoa, if the rumors are true, depending on whether James Gunn brings him in or not. Now, Momoa, of course, has been happy to say that he'd be happy to play Lobo because he thinks it's a great character. He's also known as the guy who created the ambush bug, who was one of the first characters to break the fourth wall on in the mid 80s to late 80s. And he also was responsible for the creation of Jaime Reyes, who is currently the Blue Beetle in comic books, and recently had a movie come out last year, I believe, for the Blue Beetle. Jaime Reyes was the main character of it. Okay, now Keith began his career with Marvel, and he did work on the Marvel Preview 7, as I said, where he helped create Rocket Raccoon. But he was the primary penciler and inker for the issues of Defenders 42 to 54. Now, unfortunately, I don't have any of those yet. They are on my list of things to get. But Giffen's career primarily took off when he joined DC in 1982, 1982, and became the main artist for the Legion of Superheroes. Now, he was working with Paul Levitz at the time, and he happened to be the artist for probably the best period of Legion history, where he started. And this is a famous story here. He started earlier than these. These would just happen to be the books I managed to find out of my collection in time to do this. Giffen did all the covers as well, so all of these covers are his art. You'll note that his line work and use of, especially here, is very. You can tell that he was very influenced by Kirby at the time. This cover in particular has the Kirby crackle to it, which isn't surprising considering that this time period that in the Legion of the books that I'm holding up are the story of the Great Darkness saga, which brought Darkseid into the 30th century to fight the Legion, and of course Darkseid was created by Jack Kirby. Now, at this time, Keith was primarily a writer. He didn't do much writing of the books, especially since Paul Levitz had most of the things covered. Giffen joined him on the next Legion series, but he stopped doing pencils and was starting to be inked by Larry Malastat, just after the I think Larry did the last couple of issues of the Great Darkness on the interiors, and then started to do a lot of the books at that time. Giffen, of course, moved on to create some other things, though away from them. He created his signature character that he was known for the most at DC afterwards, in when he wrote and penciled DC Comics Presents number 52. Inside, he created the villain of the issue, the Ambush Bug. Ambush Bug was an interesting take. At first, he was a supervillain, and he was a normal supervillain in the sense that he was a little out there. I want to use the phrase, we'll say his thought processes weren't quite like everybody else. Eventually getting to the point where he was aware that he was a comic book character and acted accordingly. His second appearance was in this issue here of Superman and the Legion of Substitute Heroes, where Keith helped Paul Levitz write. They were co-writers and co-plotters. And in this one, Superman teams up with the Legion of Substitute Heroes in order to defeat the Ambush Bug. This here is probably one of the most hilarious comics you will ever read. If you get a chance to read this book, it is absolutely silly from page 1 right through to page 22. And the jokes never stop. I feel bad for the substitute heroes because they get treated like patsies a lot in this book. But this book right here, to me, shows the potential of what Keith Giffen was going to do when he ends up with the Justice League later. And this was the last book in the DC Comics Presents run. This actually was Superman with the Ambush Bug. At this point, Ambush Bug has decided he wants to be a hero. And in his mind, Superman is his best buddy. In this book, they team up to not to defeat Cobra, but not without some problems. When Ambush Bug, for example, exposes Superman to red kryptonite at the beginning of the story, and what follows is classic Freaky Friday fun. And again, this is a book that I really, really recommend people read if they want to have a good, cheap laugh. Because there was one panel in particular where Ambush Bug realizes that his secret identity has been broken. That is just like the first time I read this book, I was probably, well, this is a 1985 book, so I would have been 13 or 14, and I just laughed and laughed and laughed. It was just absolutely, absolutely fun. After that, of course, after doing all that stuff, he was given a chance to rewrite his own book in the Legion Cosmos. This here is so he chose with the Substitute Heroes again. And as a follow-up to thing. Now there's no Ambush Bug this time, but his artwork, he did the pencils for this as well, and some of the inks. And his artwork was starting to look a little different than his usual style. But this book, again, if you are into having a little bit of a laugh and a book that doesn't take itself too seriously, this is one to read, because not only does it have a great story with the substitute heroes, Matter Eater Lad is in this story as well, and they make him look a little bit like a buffoon too, as fits a guy with the powers of eating through anything from the planet Bismol and the city of Pepto. So once that happened, DC realized that they had a bit of a interesting hit on their hands. After doing an Ambush Bug miniseries that sold really, really well, they decided that when they were bringing back the Justice League, that they wanted to go into a little bit of a different direction. Sorry, everybody. They decided to go in a little bit of a different direction, and they ended up creating a Justice League, and they gave it to Keith Giffen. Now, in this case, Giffen was the plotter, co-writer, and but he did not do much art at all. He only filled in on occasion when artist Kevin Maguire was not able to work on the book. So this here is Justice League 3. This is the book that replaced the Justice League of America after post-crisis. What happened was they had Detroit, Justice League Detroit. That didn't work out. They ended the book, and literally the month after Justice League of America ended, bang, new Justice League book with the new creative team. Only also a different team. This was based out of the United Nations. It wasn't an American book team per se, but adding some of the characters, he took some of the characters like Blue Beetle and Guy Gardner, and even the Batman, and he made them when he brought Booster Gold into the title, who was a new character at the time. He made them all so absolutely silly and hilarious. They banter so well together. This is so well written. And it stayed this way throughout the entire run of the Justice League, which later became Justice League International, then became Justice League America when Justice League Europe was brought out, and Justice League Europe became International. Keith was also responsible for writing Europe as well when the time came. This here is a Canadian price variant. I just like showing those out because being in Canada, they're a lot easier for us to get than the Americans, and I apologize for that, but I think Canadian price variants are neat because it's something we've got on our own. However, I digress. Mr. Giffen also worked on Dr. Fate backups in the Flash title in the, I would say, 1982, just before he became, consider that his DC tryout, so to speak, just before he became the full artist on Legion of Superheroes. I've got this one more here. This is most of the run of the first year of the run for Justice League. Now, Keith left the book after about 50 or 60 issues. I didn't get the exact number. I probably should have. But what he did do is when the book started falling in the terms of sales, they've decided to bring back the original concept of the League. This one is called, formerly known as the Justice League, or informally Super Buddies. He came back and did much of the same style. He started writing with J.M. DeMatteis again, who was his writing partner for most of this Justice League run, and I found again it was very nice. I particularly like this cover here with Fire as just an absolute fantastic cover. Now, he obviously didn't do it. This was Maguire's work. But with Paul Rubenstein, I believe his name is. But these covers, if you like a nice throwback to the what they call the Bwahahaha era of Justice League, which is pretty much what a lot of people have nicknamed Giffen's run on the book. The Super Buddies there, formerly known as the Justice League, make for a great return as something that you can read and enjoy. Now, he also before he retired and finished with comics, he started slowing down. He didn't get as much work per se. He worked for a few independents, but I found those books were very hard to find, the ones that he was in, because they don't always credit him. He's listed on Wikipedia in some of them, but then you go to the book and you don't see his name anywhere on the credits. So when it comes to the independents, I found it very difficult to actually pin down anything that Keith had actually done. So just as a last one to show, this is Son of Ambush Bug #1. This was the last series that he did with the Ambush Bug. There was an Ambush Bug one-shot special after the series was finished, and that was the last time. The Ambush Bug went away, not because Keith wanted to stop. Keith said he would write Ambush Bug all the time, forever, as much as possible, but DC was starting to feel that it was not appropriate for their company with all the fourth wall breaking. And they even though the sales were there, they probably could have gotten at least one more miniseries out of him before And if they'd waited a few more years, could have gotten even more out of him when things got more ridiculous and more events that they could do. But DC editorial told him no, especially his old, and that's when Keith decided to stop working with DC. Is it was his old friend Paul Levitz who had told him no, no more ambush bug, basically. And he saw that as a bit of a betrayal, so he left. He came back on occasion, as I said. He did the Super Buddies as a favor to his old partner J.M. DeMatteis, because DeMatteis was looking for work at the time, and they were able to, get lots of sales on that. Anyways, on 9 October 2023, Keith Giffen died of a stroke. He had been sick for a while. He was fighting cancer, and as a side effect of the treatments, he ended up having a stroke that unfortunately killed him. He did get various tributes in DC. Comics for December 2023 that were dated January 2024, I believe, had a bunch of tributes towards him. And a lot of them had the ambush bug. The ambush bug had made a comeback during the New 52 period with pretending to be in the newscasts in the back of the books. And there. So I would say that certainly Keith Giffen has left a bit of a legacy at the grand old company. Um, and I hope that anybody reading this, watching this video, sorry, my apologies, anybody watching this video will grab one of those books, take a good read. The banter between Booster Gold and Blue Beetle and Wally West and Elongated Man on the Europe side, with a Metamorpho as their straight man, and John Jones being the straight man of Booster and Beetle, they absolutely left me cracking up. I mean, that humor was perfect when I was a teenager, and it's still the type of humor I find amusing today. I like books that don't take themselves too seriously, as well as obviously the ones that take themselves seriously are good, because books like Batman Hush and other more the Three Jokers, for example, are more dark and more into it and all that stuff. They're great stories too. But the silly side reminds me why I liked comic books in the first place, because Silver Age DC was kind of silly. Anyway, my name's Matt. I like comics, and I hope you do too. Have a great one.